Content writing and copywriting are two different things, as I explained in a recent video, but you need both of them for your next launch to be successful. In this video, you are going to hear 4 ways that you can take your message from pretty good to great for your next marketing campaign. We are constantly helping clients and students in my business launch their service, their product, or an entire new website. So it kind of feels like we're always in launch mode. We never really get out of it, but along the way with that is come with some great insights, and that's what I'm sharing in today's video. Hey there, I'm Ashlyn, a conversion copywriter and brand and launch strategist for creatives like you, and this is episode 105. You could binge watch episodes 1 through 104, or you could just look down below, hit subscribe and the bell next to it, and that's how you will be in the know to hear the newest and the freshest videos when they drop. Your messaging is a huge piece of the conversion optimization of your marketing funnel. And funnel, kind of a sexy word right now in marketing, but essentially I'm talking about the sales journey of your potential clients, customers, or prospects, as they're called, all the way through the buyer's journey to purchasing and working with you. From raising awareness to what you're even putting out there or doing, to growing your audience and gaining supporters, to driving conversions, getting buyers, and then getting them to spread the word about how great it was to work with you. I'm also going to touch on a few trends that I see need a little bit of a change up here in 2020. If all this sounds like so much fun to you to nerd out on as well, hit that like button below and let's jump in. Tip number 1, don't bring up the deadline too soon. Okay, I want you to picture your favorite physical store to go into, the one that has experience down pat. You know, the one, maybe they have some great music playing or a record on, it smells good, they've got candles maybe going, and the customer service is an absolute delight. You're totally jiving with it, it feels good, it's beautiful to look at, you may be feeling the fabrics or the products and even picturing what it would be like to own one of those things. You're really starting to put yourself in the position of what would it be like to walk out of here with something, even if it's just a pack of pencils. Comment below, what is that store for you? I know that I've always thought Anthropologie has this super dialed in. There's a lot of business articles that have agreed with this, but at least here in Atlanta, one store I love to go in, even just a window shop, is a store called Ann Mashburn. It just makes me happy to walk inside. Let me know, what would that store be for you? Now, then think, how different would that experience be if the second that you walked in, the very first thing that you were met with was a blinking, flashing sign that said 24 hours left to get these and showed you some rack where they were the last pieces of a certain item? If that was the first thing you saw when you walked in, it'd be a little weird, right? In this physical shopping experience scenario, it's kind of better for those sale offers or even just last chance to purchase offers to be middle to the back of the store. We need a little bit of opportunity to just experience the brand, soak it up before we get hit with those things. Not to stretch the analogy too much, but that's kind of what it feels like when you open up and you start talking about the deadline a little bit prematurely. You need to let your people understand your offer, understand how it's working for other people. They need to know what's included in it, imagine themselves owning it and using it. Now, it differs depending on offer, but my typical rule is from about 72 to 48 hours before cart close or when the offer expires, that's when you can then introduce urgency and scarcity with the deadline. So for example, if cart open or the promo period was 1 week, about 48 hours before it ended, I would then start really talking about this is expiring, this is going away. Now yes, this will flex a little bit depending on your offer, whether it's a tripwire or an evergreen offer. There's things to talk about, and if you've got questions on that, leave them in the comments below. But essentially, this is just kind of a rule of thumb I want you to consider. Help first coach them through making the decision of wanting it or not, aside from the urgency of it's disappearing. Bring that in at the end to add on the pressure. That brings me to my next messaging tip. Quit using sliders or carousels, as they're called, on your sales page. Please just stop. Now, these can be helpful in certain times like testimonials and definitely, I would say, portfolio work, especially for artists, photographers, and creatives. But you need to know that the drop-off rate for actually looking at these puppies is crazy. So word of advice, if you're going to use these, do not pack them too full of content to slide through. Now, I remember when I first saw these come into vogue, it was 2011, and I was in a marketing agency helping draft copy for Delta.com, Delta Airlines' website, and I remember were always working on that hero, headline, subhead, and everything that we needed for the carousel that would be on the front display of Delta's website. I looked recently and they do not use these anymore. I just think that's interesting to note. I can understand the desire to use them when they're automatic and they flip. It's a little easier to get information in front of your reader, at least you hope. And in the niche I work in, the creative world, I think it's a little bit of a fad to include in those carousels the content of an offer or the curriculum of an offer, but here is the problem. They're just not clicking through. I love this quote from an optimization specialist, Pep Leia. He said, "Some people think they're cool, but cool doesn't make you money, at least not in this way." Notre Dame University tested this, and what they saw was interesting. Only the first slide got about 1% of clicks, and the other slides hardly got clicks at all. So is it worth that to you? I did some heat maps and data testing of my own on one of our launch clients' sales page, and what I found is only about 10% of the traffic was even clicking through to the next slide in the module, and only 10% of that 10% was clicking through all the way through the 7 slides that were there. Next, use a framework to organize your message. Now, to the point I just mentioned, I think people do that because they worry that without a carousel as a device, the page is going to be way too long. And people write in all the time to me that they want to make sure they're putting content and things out there that don't just create more noise in a digital world. So I get this. The way they need to marry together, though, is I want you to organize your message so people can digest it. The big tip here, though, to marry these two concepts, how to get your long form or a lot of your content in front of people, but do it in a way that doesn't just add to all of the cacophony and the noise. So what you want to do is make sure that you're organizing your message really well and making it very clear what they're going to get out of reading a certain part of your copy with great subheadlines and headlines. Now, the amount of copy on your page typically depends on the complexity of the offer and the price point of the offer. The more complicated or expensive the offer, the more you're going to have to show and explain and bolster up your argument. Whether you have a 5,000-word sales page or a 100-word product description, make sure that you're using and leveraging different frameworks for your writing that are already out there. I have a blog post below where I have blogged extensively about frameworks. I have a video where I've talked about my Paris framework. Use these things. And as you implement these formulas, here is a little tip for you. I don't know if this is scientific, but I have deeply studied sales pages for about 4 years now. And what I've seen is when I'm scrolling, I want my cursor to be about 1/3 of the way down the page, at least, at minimum, before the offer is actually presented to me. Maybe it can go up at the very top in the hero section, but besides that, you need to have a good chunk of copy. Again, lean on those frameworks where you're actually helping educate and convince me that this is something I may be interested in. So when you're checking your sales page or more of a long form services page before you put it out in the world, go ahead and give that a little 1/3 test and see if you're about 1/3 down the page before that offer is really introduced. And finally, near the end of your email sales sequence, make sure that you are giving people an opportunity to hop off of this specific funnel or sequence if it's not something they're interested in. There's so many crazy email automations and segmentations that you can do as a creative small business owner. But buyers are also a little more sophisticated now, and they may understand, and again, it's not a bad thing, but they just may know when they're in more of a sales pitch funnel. Now, some of us out there, comment below if this is you too, like being on those kind of funnels. Typically, I think if I signed up for this and I'm into what you do, then yeah, go ahead and sell me. This may be a perfect fit for something that I actually need. But you do want to give people the opportunity to hop off if this is something they're not interested in. One thing we do with most of our launch clients is, again, towards the end, so those 48-ish hours before the offer expires, go ahead and give a PS or some kind of disclaimer at the bottom of the email or even at the top of the email where you let people click and remove themselves from that funnel and be put on your regular email campaigns. Just courtesy, in my opinion. Now, I have worked as a copywriter for a long time now, and I've also hired copywriters even in my own business. And here's one thing I've learned. I mentioned it on a podcast interview the other day, but my recommendation is that you be at least 3 years into your business before you look to hire copywriting. You need those years under your belt. You can outsource a lot of things, but it's really hard to outsource salesmanship, which is something you have to do as the creative small business owner's CEO. And anyone worth hiring should be in the $1,000 at least range, if not more. Otherwise, cheap writing is usually cheap for a reason, and I promise you can do it. I have seen hundreds of my students learn how to DIY their message and their copy, even for an upcoming launch. Now, as you get everything in place and ready for your next promo campaign, look down below. I have a free checklist for your launch copy and content. Thousands and thousands of creatives have gotten their hands on this, and it's helped them so much, so I'm pumped to get to offer it to you as well. If you found this video today helpful, hit the like button, comment below, and tell me one of your takeaways or one of your questions. I love answering those. And to hear more launch tips for putting your next product, service, or refreshed website out there, tune into the video that I have teed up for you next, where you're going to hear 3 tips about launching each. Thanks for watching.